Hi, this is Corey Chambers in Los Angeles with a political commentary about YouTube's censorship and removal of the dollar vigilante Jeff Berwick. COVID-19 is the biggest psyop in human history is the title that was removed. We're going to let you know our opinion on why YouTube is removing his videos. He's the most anti-violence person that we know of. He's against violence. He's against political oppression. He's against this type of censorship, obviously. And if you're against censorship, discussing on a social media which is engaging in radical censorship, radical banning, and radical editorializing of content that YouTube claims to be simply a provider that allows people to speak and say what they want to say. When these social media are removing select choice videos and promoting select speech, then they are obviously not like a telephone. A telephone is an example of an actual communication service that allows people to say what they want to say without being monitored, without being censored. You can use your telephone to send out messages to one person, usually, but it can also be used to broadcast to hundreds or thousands of people your message of whatever you want to say, and nobody's going to censor it. So that is a true vehicle for free speech. And we're getting a call. This is Corey. You're on the air.
Hey, Corey, Carol Crockett calling you back about my daughter in LA.
Hi, yeah, you caught me when I was recording a video. That's why you're on the air on YouTube. So if you want to give me your criteria, some of that might be private, so I'll turn off the video, or if there's something else you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I can have her call and chat with you. She lives down there right now. She's been down there about 4 or 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And she's been renting in the same place for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But what she needs is, kind of a live workspace. Mm-hmm. She does stuff at Melrose, and she sells online. And now with Melrose Crow, she does some private showings where people come in and, she has her stuff out and they shoot stuff. So I've been trying to find something for her down there. Do you have avenues to that? Or?
Yeah, do you know what size and price range?
What was that, the size?
The size and the price range?
For rent?
Uh-huh.
Do you do rental, right? For rental, they wanted to stay under like $3,500 and under. Obviously, $3,000 would be better for them.
Uh-huh.
But they're kind of open. They live West Hollywood, kind of right by that little Armenia. Is that the little
Little Armenia? Uh-huh.
area right there? Yeah. So they live right off of there, Western and Hollywood Boulevard, and whatever the other one is, South between that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But they just need a little bit. They need a bigger space now, and to be able to. But their square foot they have right now, I think, is only about 7. Maybe I should have her call you.
Yeah, you're a co-signer. I can take down your criteria and hers would work. Otherwise, just have her call me.
Yeah, cool. She's been able to get. She's had this place rented in her and her boyfriend's name. She has good credit, so she should be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do online apps? I mean, how do you do it first? I didn't want to just give out her social security number,
Yeah,
off the bat. I just don't know how you guys work.
No, we don't need a social security number until she finds a place that she likes to apply to. So I just write down the criteria and then send her everything that matches. That way, she doesn't.
That would be awesome.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that'd
Yeah.
be perfect. And she knows those little spots down there, better, what kind of what they're looking for. So I'll have her reach out to you, and then she can give you kind of the criteria and anything that you could send her. They can go buy them first or whatever. She knows all the pockets, so that would be really helpful. Thank you. I've been calling around. I've just been having a hard time from up here trying to...
Oh, yeah, you found the right place. We helped someone find a live-work place in West Hollywood just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Super. Okay.
And also downtown and all around LA.
Yeah, she thought of the downtown, but she kind of wants to stay away from there only because she says, the people, they do so much at Melrose, so she kind of wanted to be within the vicinity, either the Little Armenia or West Hollywood or down near Melrose. She'll know the pockets better, but she said downtown she just felt like she would get more clientele just with the driving and the parking and the extra times, even though they have great loft spaces down there.
Yeah, downtown is also has a lot of homeless and junk contents and stuff taking over the place in some parts.
When I was down there a year ago, actually around their neighborhood, I started seeing a little of that. I'm starting to get that Minnesota now. Everybody's just living on the side of the freeway, just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, LA's getting
I'll never
worse.
call you, and she can chat with you, and I really appreciate the call back. You're like the first one that's kind of be able to help reach out with me, on trying to figure something out. So I'll pass it on to her right now, and I had a call you.
Okay, yeah. Other agents around here are quitting or killing themselves, but I'm still going.
You're funny. You're awesome. Thanks, Corey.
All right.
All right, I'll have her call you. Her name's Hannah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so that was a call that we wanted to take because they want some help looking for a place in Los Angeles to live and work out of. So, but the reason for this video is just to discuss censorship. It's really becoming a major problem because the social media have made it clear that they believe they should be 100% protected from giving their whatever their political bias is, and while at the same time being able to censor videos in a way that shows their political bias. So the president just announced that that's improper, and so YouTube will probably remove this video. If enough people watch it, they'll remove it. If not too many people watch it, they probably won't remove it because that's the way that YouTube tends to operate, is they tend to let people have free speech until it becomes highly effective. And if it's very effective and reaches a lot of people and goes against YouTube's own political narrative and desires, then they remove it. So that's extreme censorship. That is editorializing. That's complete and total editorial control when they operate that way. So, especially when it's political speech, when it's discussions that are of political nature, those are things that basically YouTube should not be removing at all. So, and when he's talking about economics and politics, first and foremost, Jeff Berwick on this COVID-19, let's blow it up to make sure you see what I'm talking about, that they just removed. He's talking about politics and economics and giving a differing opinion. Now, anyone who's gone to college or who is very educated understands one of the purposes of going to college, getting an education, is about getting a diverse type of opinions, a diverse set of opinions, a diverse set of information, and theories and beliefs, and different approaches to science and politics, religion, sex, and all the topics that people find to be important or to differentiate their different viewpoints. So let's go into why YouTube is censoring people like Jeff Berwick. So he believes that people are a bit too mind-controlled by the mainstream media, especially. And the social media and mainstream media and the government are all on the same plane as far as what they are saying, what they're allowing to be said, which is basically pro-government types of things. he is anarchist, so very anti-government. So that's another reason why YouTube is removing his videos, because YouTube tends to be pro-government, just like the mainstream media. And YouTube now really is mainstream media, along with Twitter. Just having millions and millions, hundreds of millions or billions of viewers really pushes it towards the mainstream, towards the pro-government agenda, which is also the pro-war and pro-industrial military complex agenda. So, but Jeff is going in and actually getting first-hand accounts, first-hand videos of things like he's on the forefront of the discussion on COVID, and where he is actually going into hospitals and cemeteries, crematoriums, and looking for these dead bodies, because he does not believe that they are there. So he did indeed go in and find that these there are no piles of bodies. There is no constant 24/7 smokestack of cremating COVID bodies. This is not there. He went in and showed it. And then he just showed a video of people in Brazil getting fed up and storming into a hospital because the hospital said there were thousands of victims and hundreds of deaths. And they go in and show that there is approximately zero or close to zero patients in this hospital. It looked like a makeshift hospital. There's like 50 or 100 maybe people working in there doing who knows what, but no patients, or either no patients or very few, perhaps none patients at all. So they just exposed this, revealed this firsthand accounts. These are things that the news media should be doing. So this is the big, huge failing that someone with a background in media, radio, journalism, this is where the media is failing us. The free speech and being well-educated, well-informed is not about limiting your views. Limiting people's views, censorship, and all that serves one purpose, which is to prevent people from hearing views that may be stronger than your views, for instance. So they are preventing alternate opinions about COVID, about the government, and about many other topics, economics, because those views are stronger than some of the existing views that are endorsed by the government as a whole. So that's why YouTube is censoring these things. So let's just listen randomly.
What they're going to make them do. So it's pretty easy to profit from all this stuff, and that's what we've been doing now for 10 years. We just passed the 10-year anniversary for the Dollar Vigilante. June 1st of this month was our 10-year anniversary.
So there he's talking about what he does. Let's just back up a little bit, because I want to get an example of what he talks about.
More cases of the coronavirus were confirmed today in San Luis Obispo County, bringing the total number now to 33.
33. So this is what the mainstream media would just write off as a conspiracy theory and say, because it's a conspiracy theory, it's not worth listening to, or it has no importance, or it should be shunned, or whatever. Well, conspiracy theories, sure, if you don't want to hear them, then you should not listen to them. I tend to not believe most conspiracy theories. I think that most conspiracy theories are just, I agree in one aspect with the mainstream media, that they're not something that is always factual. They can be a bit loony, but when you censor things, it comes back. Censoring doesn't work, for one thing. It also goes against the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which promotes free speech. So, and it also goes against one of the main facets of education, which is a diversity of learning, which is where you obtain the truth. You don't obtain the truth from a single biased source. And by the way, all sources are biased. They're either a tiny bit biased or they're 100% biased, but they're all biased. So when you're obtaining your information from one biased source, you are not getting the truth. You're not getting the fullest, maximum truth, because you're only getting part of it. So you really must include these so-called phony or loony or nutty conspiracy theories. You need to include some of that in your background, in your foundation, because there is a lot elements of truth. I don't think anyone's going to say that there's zero truth in all conspiracy theories. The fact is that it's a fact that there are conspiracies that do happen on occasion, especially when you have an investigation that's proper and reveals that there were several people involved in some sort of plot. That is a conspiracy, and it is a reality. So let's take something more far-fetched, such as that Saudi Arabian terrorists were not behind the destruction on 9/11 of the Twin Towers. So that is, to me, far-fetched. But I would never say that you cannot let those conspiracy theorists say what they want to say. You have to let them say what they want to say. It's absolute must. Just by censoring things in a way, you're giving credence to it. You're saying that your argument is so strong that we must prevent people from hearing it, because otherwise they might believe it. Well, by saying that, you're giving they're giving credence to these arguments, and they're making just as many people want to seek them out. Another thing that I disagree with Jeff Berwick is that that nobody landed on the moon. So I don't think Jeff understands how to tell a conspiracy theory that's fake from one that's real. So the way that you tell a fake conspiracy theory from one that's real is how many people were involved in the conspiracy, how many of them came forward who were credible people with credible information of their inside story of that conspiracy. So landing a man on the moon, for example, there were tens of thousands of people involved in that. Tens of thousands. There were hundreds of astronauts. Dozens of them, at least 5 or 10 landed on the moon. So all those people would need to do something that's impossible for that to be fake and a conspiracy. All of them would need to take part in the conspiracy and then cover it up 100%. So that's simply impossible to do. If you know one person, you talk to one or two people, and you ask them to keep a secret, once you get past 1, 2, 3 people, you can count on the secret being, getting out, unless it's, sometimes if it's a vital public interest like the Manhattan Project, that the secret can be kept pretty well. But that's because everyone is in on the purposes of keeping the secret. The secret is for the greater good of America, and that makes it a little bit easier. But something like the making up of landing on the moon, that's not a direct, absolute, necessary military defense of America. There's not everybody's going to defend that secret. If someone tells you, pretend like we're landing on the moon so we could feed this out to America and make it seem like we're landing on the moon, you're probably going to say, no, I'm not going to keep that secret. That's ridiculous. So that's one example of how you could tell that the landing on the moon never happened conspiracy is the conspiracy is fake. The moon landing was real, and the conspiracy was fake. But you still want to hear all points of view and why. So when you listen to the people who say that no one landed on the moon, or they say that the Earth is flat, you should be able to pretty briefly hear their argument and see it's a ridiculous argument. We have satellites that are programmed. Your GPS on your car navigation is based on the fact that the Earth is round. It has special algorithms added to it to make up for the roundness of the Earth and the effect on satellites and global positioning. So those are how. So I hope I gave a good account of why we need to hear. Now, another thing about the virus that Jeff Berwick spends quite a bit of time on. And he mentioned the number 33. The number 33 is quite prominent in Freemasonry and other, fraternal organizations. And he points out that it seems to be being overused when they are discussing the virus, saying 33 people were infected here, 33 people were infected there, 33 people sick here, 33 people sick there. So, and he gives the actual footage of all this. So he's not just spouting his opinions. I'm more spouting my opinions, but this is based on things that are getting censored by YouTube. So if I showed you too much of this video, then obviously YouTube would remove the video that I'm creating now. So, but I did want to talk about COVID because he says that it's basically more or less nonsense. That yes, there are viruses. They don't necessarily spread the way that we are told that they spread. I tend to do believe that viruses spread the way that we are told they spread, but that's not the whole story. But the reason why this is so important, why I'm bringing this up when I normally talk about real estate, is because it's affecting real estate. It's affecting the economy. It's causing the Greater Depression of 2020. So this is why we want to be concerned and take action. Number one, we are experiencing the greatest stock market crash in history. Number two, we are experiencing the greatest surge in unemployment in history. And number three, we are experiencing the greatest drop in GDP in history. And this is caused by, or related to, we'll use their words, linked to the greatest psychological campaign in history. So, and we can tell that because you go to YouTube and anywhere else pretty much, and it will give you the YouTube and government viewpoint of COVID. That is they may call it a educational campaign, the biggest health educational campaign in history, or the biggest psychological campaign in history, as Jeff Berwick might call it. And there it is right there. This is YouTube's belief, which happens to correspond with like the government and World Health Organization. And I think Twitter is doing the same thing. And I know Google's doing the same thing. I'm not sure about Twitter, if they're doing this. So this is, depending on your viewpoint, the biggest educational campaign in history or the biggest psychological campaign in history, or both. And we know Google's doing that as well. So that's not just a conspiracy theory. This is his viewpoint on the facts of what is actually happening that you could see in front of your eyes, which is this educational campaign / psychological campaign, which he calls psyops. And that's what YouTube is censoring. Okay, so it's all about politics as well. And people who disagree with mainstream politics are beginning to end up in jail. So it's not just censorship. The censorship goes along with putting you in jail if you happen to disagree with the military-industrial complex, if you happen to disagree with causing the greatest economic catastrophe in history. And the people that are against the people who are against, who want a good economy, those are not people who are against health. Those are people who agree, including 600 doctors, agree that the ramifications of the greatest depression in history is worse health, not better health, but worse mental health and worse physical health. They believe, and I happen to be one of them, who believes, Jeff Berwick also, who believes that the problems, the cascading crises from the lockdown will create emotional, mental, and physical health effects that are worse than the effects of COVID. And that doctors who are looking at COVID, hundreds of them, if not thousands, are agreeing that, probably thousands, are agreeing that the effects of lockdown are worse for our health than the virus. The whole country of Sweden and other places believe that viruses are part of being human. Cold viruses, flu-like viruses like COVID are part and parcel, and that a natural method is better than a lockdown that destroys the economy. They believe that locking down and destroying the economy. This is Sweden. These are some of the most educated, smartest, most successful people on earth. So when you go USA against Sweden, Sweden is smaller, but they are a very formidable opinion that the United States is disagreeing with. Sweden are possibly the most educated people on earth, the Swedish. They're certainly more educated than the average American, and in some ways they're wealthier than the average American. So, and probably happier as well than the average American. So when you look at all their forms of success, you don't just write them off, and because we won't know until we look at the long-term results, and then sort of the history books will tell us. Speaking of history books, I've mentioned that the Black Plague killed more than 30% of Europe. In other words, 30%, the entire population, more than 30% died. When you look at the population of America that's dying from COVID, it's much less than 1%. It's much closer to 0%. So when you're going to destroy the economy, you have to decide, do you want to destroy an economy when the total death rate is that low? And when Birx herself, and along with other people, have said over and over, and this is things that Jeff Berwick has played for us, the first-hand accounts of top doctors and epidemiologists who are discussing facts such as comorbidities, which is pre-existing health conditions. This is probably what we should leave this on. Dr. Birx herself. If I can find my videos. There she is right there. Let's click on the right one. Let's leave it with Dr. Birx herself. I'm going to translate it because she does speak in double speak. She's going to say that the deaths that we could call heart attacks, diabetes, stroke, old age, are being marked as COVID. So she kind of does it in doublespeak, but that's what she's saying. It's pretty clear, I think, for those who want to listen. And that gets back also to the fact that we're having mass hysteria, mass panic, and a global crash because this is the way that people in general, society, wants it to play out. And so let's leave it with Dr. Birx.
So I think in this country, we've taken a very liberal approach to mortality. And I think the reporting here has been pretty straightforward over the last 5 to 6 weeks. Prior to that, when there wasn't testing in January and February, that's a very different situation and unknown. There are other countries that if you had a pre-existing condition, and let's say the virus caused you to go to the ICU and then have a heart or kidney problem, some countries are recording that as a heart issue or a kidney issue and not a COVID-19 death. Right now, we're still recording it, and the great thing about having forms that come in and a form that has the ability to mark it as COVID-19 infection, the intent is right now that if someone dies with COVID-19, we are counting that as a COVID-19 death.
All right, so I think Dr. Birx said it best. Thanks for listening, and hope that you will also take action, not just idly sit by during the censorship that's going on, massive censorship. I'm Corey Chambers in Los Angeles. Thanks again for joining me. You take care. Bye-bye.